You're such an asshole.
Hello, children. This is a book review sent to our Polish agent in the field, Rob Fogalski, and he wanted me to review the book, The Pendulum, How Past Generations Shape Our Present and Predict Our Futures, is written by, where is it? Roy Williams and Michael Drew. There's another book called The Pendulum, which is like finding the granddaughter something or something. That's not this. This one is a book above all else on marketing. And so I listened to it, and Rob was kind of interested in my take. And I hate to let Rob down. I really didn't like the book, man. I really. And I'll tell you what the book is. I'll tell you the problems that I have with it. What the book is these are two advertisers. I thought they were social scientists or economists or historians or something. They're not. Their backgrounds, their professional backgrounds, are pretty much non-existent. They're just advertisers and marketers. And they wrote this book called The Pendulum, and their general theory or philosophy or their thesis or model is that all societies go through a cycle, kind of like borrowing from China's yin and yang. But what they do is they say, instead of yin and yang, they say it's we and me. And society just goes between, if the right side is me, it swings to we. And then after it gets a maximum amount of we, then they get sick of that and go back to me. So are we going to focus on society, or are we going to focus on the individual? And then they talk about, as the pendulum swings from one point to the other, what's good and bad about different stages. And there's not an illogic to the thesis. You can see it happening. Society goes through cycles, but for example, if you're on the upswing to what's right, me, and you're in that quadrant. You're not dead zero where it's neither me nor we, but you're halfway to me, and that momentum's going. Usually, just benefits of individuality, innovation, creation, finding oneself. But then you get a little bit too far, and they always say you take it to one thing to an extreme, and one could say the economic excesses of the 80s or the materialism of the 80s, which. Certainly there's a point there where you had dipshits my generation back then spending $120 and $86 on shoes and the Cavarici pants and the right shoes, and then swinging back. So then there's a little bit of a pushback. Maybe you could see that with Clinton and Obama. We're more of a we-focused society, and then a we-focused society is about patriotism and traditions and helping. We're all on the same team, and there's some good stuff, and it gets about there like, yeah, we're all on the same team. But if it gets too much of a we, as they're arguing is happening now, it's all about socialism and not even socialism, but ideologies are taking them too far, and it's good for me, bad for you, and shame on you if you're not like me. And so this is probably where we're going to now, where it's a damaging we, a maxim we effect, where if you don't support Black Lives Matter and Marxist organizations and believe in treating whites and males poorly and as an example, they show other examples throughout history. I'm just saying modernly today, if you're not part of the leftist liberal zeitgeist, if you didn't believe, what's her name, Blasey Ford, you hate women. It's like, well, maybe I wanted some evidence, So it goes too far in extreme. And then, for example, communism, bureaucracy, witch hunts, they cite that. And humanity and societies go back and forth between this, we, me. And then what they say is, or they claim, they say it's at a 40-year cycle between we and me. And if you time the cycle right and you pay attention to different social phenomenon, writing, music, movies, television, media, society's actions itself, you could kind of predict and get ahead of where it's going. And even though I didn't like the book, I could see where it would be of benefit for people interested in advertising, but I don't do advertising. I'm not an advertising exec. So if you're an advertising guy or gal, maybe this book would provide you a little bit of information, because all you need is to be one step ahead of your competition, and that edge gives you. So it's an interesting theory they had. And one thing that I really appreciated in the book, because I didn't appreciate a lot in the book, was they went through McDonald's slogans from 1963, which By the way, one of the things I didn't like about this book is because of well, we're 3/4 we, and then now we're me, and then we're going to, but we're at maximum me, but we're at full pull. I'm like, oh God, damn it, dudes. Just, where are we right now? I forget which way the pendulum is swinging. Are we a quarter full? Are we 3/4 full? Or is it a downswing? Is it an upswing? Where I had to like stop and think a couple times, but after a while, just like I let it go and just kind of took in the overall point. But they showed how in 1963, McDonald's was all about what was it? America, and like best burger and fries and American way, and and then as it got later to the 60s and the 70s, it became more individualistic, where your burgers your way, you deserve better or whatever. And I wish they would have done Coke. I wish they would have done Coca-Cola, because you could see McDonald's motto or sayings or whatever it is absolutely changed with the attitude of the boomers and then the Gen Xers. And then I think he stopped in 1994 or 5. But he wasn't wrong. He wasn't wrong. You could see it. You could see that trend. And so what they claim is that they got it down like a science, like they got it down like 40 years. And this is where I started to like, I really got down to 40 years, and where I really didn't like the book. Are there cycles? Yes. Can you kind of see them? And good men, good times, weak men, bad times, good men. There's a cycle there, but is it down to 40? And here's where I'm like, nah, man, you're stretching. And this is where I was like, I was expecting numbers, like data, and all it was anecdotes. And he goes all the way back to biblical times, which there's nothing wrong with. But he says, see, look here at this point in time, now 40 years later, oh, look at that. It's like, well, yeah, but that's like hundreds of countries, some of which don't even exist anymore, and thousands of cultures and millions of historical references. I mean, I can find anything to make it seem like there's a pattern. You see how it was 40 years lost in the desert with Moses? Coincidence? We think not. I'm like, dude, they don't even know if those years were correct, because like Methuselah presumably living to 969 years old. And it's like, wait, were we really using years? Or are those like months? Like what's the measurement going on here? And so and what was painful, it's a 400-page book, is they went through like each 20-year increment. And it was very organized. It was, I think, culture, music, background, whatever. But he'd say, and this year, from this year, notice society's kind of going this way. Look at the song lyrics. They're quoting song lyrics. Well, yeah, there's 1,000 songs a year made. I could find any lyric I wanted to prove the opposite. And then, oh, look, the songs were sad and the songs were happy. And then there was the Roaring 20s, and then it wasn't roaring no more. I'm like, was it have anything to do with the Great Recession or Great Depression, or maybe that World War II thing afterwards? 9/11, huh, anybody? And so they were, and that's where the number one thing is it didn't have to be that long. It really didn't. Even the introductory chapters could have been cut in half, where it's like, here's a theory. We think it has veracity here and why, and here's the practicality. And instead they took 3 chapters too many to explain the theory. I'm like, yes, got it. Yes. What's his name? Bill Carson. Yes, I'm Lincoln's grandfather. If anyone gets that one, I'll be very impressed. Where it's like, yeah, okay, you beat the theory to death. We got it. We don't need to know all the psychosocial underlying and underpinnings of just you got your theory, all right. And maybe if you had more macro data, like numbers would have really made it interesting. But it was just like, well, the Doors sang a song called Come On Baby Light My Fire. What does that mean? I think it means sex, Jim. And that was another thing, is both authors went back and forth on the audio. And after a while, like, okay, now we're on like the 9th incarnation of a 20-year cycle. Oh, look over here, now look over there. No, oh my God, the songs were like this and the television was like that. And that's why I was kind of like, eh. And so I looked them up. I'm like, oh, they're marketers. Okay, I get it. And they got coaching and seminars and things, and you could subscribe to their stuff. And I'm not in the field of marketing, but I could see where this would have some use in a Western nation, because they focus pretty exclusively on Western nations, and especially in the United States because, well, one, they're Americans, but two, that's where most of their anecdotes were. And we're all familiar with that, at least within my audience. Like, oh yeah, we have this kind of cultural history we understand. We know boomers are the weak men who created bad times, and we're just thought the bad times was called the 70s, and that would have created strong men, but Gen X just got bailed out with debt. And then now the millennials we just keep having more and more weak men financed and fed by debt. Don't worry, the bad times are coming sometime soon. And it would be helpful maybe for a marketing or advertising guy, but for me, philosophically, it seemed cheap. I'll be honest. I was like, okay, it's an idea. Might be some, okay, cool. I got it. Things go in cycles. But the overuse of non-empirical data, there wasn't one number. There was no numbers. I was kind of, oh man, this seems a serious looking cover. Interesting topic. I talk about intergenerational warfare all the time. And it was not there. It was just anecdotes and see over here. Look, Aaron was 5 miles that way. Now he's 5 miles that way. It's almost guaranteed you can predict there'll be another 5 miles that way, which they didn't claim. But this should have been a college paper, a college research paper, not even a thesis, just like your regular old marketing, mid-level marketing, like new marketing idea paper for college. It could have been a 20, if that, page paper. And here's our theory, and it would have really been much more interesting, and I think authentic, if they had numbers and not just, I don't want to say cherry picked either. I don't think they're cherry picking. I do believe they think they're onto something, but it would have been, if you could codify it numerically somehow and therefore measure it, it would have been a lot better. So that's it. If you're marketing, sure, it's maybe worth taking a look, but I just kind of described the philosophy and theory for you. I've linked to the book down below. People seem to like it. I'm wrong in that regard. It's got 4.5 stars, so maybe people in the industry really appreciate it and they got value out of it. I just was not intellectually stimulated by it much at all. Mexi Mike for $5, really dig into the 4 bulk. I know, and it's like, it's got all the torn upness. It's pretty badass. I know, it's pretty old school. I feel like I'm a 70s pit racing guy with my headphones. I'm like, got some old Ford coming up. Your look reminds me of Brad Pitt with his champion t-shirt on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Never saw it. You even have the rugged beard. Well, I always have the 5 o'clock shadow because I don't want to look too young. 45 years old. I got to grow facial hair before I look too young. That's it. All right. We'll see you guys later. Toodles.